Welcome friends, we are going to take this shaft out of this head and we're going to put a steel shaft in. We're going to tell you why in just a minute. Welcome back to the Golf Shop. Jim McCleary here, and this is where we talk about golf club repairs, golf club reviews, and golf club fittings. Also your scores can go low. If you would, like, subscribe, hit that stuff across the bottom. That way this information gets out to the YouTube universe. All right, we do have a live stream. It's on Mondays. We talk about the same stuff. It's at 5:30 Eastern Time. Come join us. You'll like it. There's people from around the world that actually get on there and we talk just together. It's a very friendly community thing. Okay, so here's what we're doing. What's happening right now is there's another popularity of mini drivers making this scene. And so what a golfer has brought me is an old Titileist 975D. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this thing or not. There we go. 975D. And these things, you know, in the day, everybody thought these things were big, right? Well, hell, it's no bigger than a 3-wood anymore, but it's got a massively tall face, which makes it pretty decent to be a mini driver. Now, I do have some problems with it in the fact that it's a 7.5 degree driver. However, you got to, you know, play with what you got. Now, what makes this thing so special? Well, it's a bore through, right? It is a bore through. And so we're going to be talking about how to take it apart, put it back together, and then what this will do when we go to install it. Now, I've been told to tip it an inch. I'm sure that person has seen where you take a driver shaft and you tip it an inch, that kind of thing. But we also have extra worries here in that there's about 3.5 to 4 inches of area being gripped by the club head itself that makes the thing play stiffer. Okay, so we may not take necessarily all of that off because of what this club design does. So let's take this thing apart. So the first thing we're going to do is we got to take the ferrule off. And now, because this is an older club, the paint is not like it used to, or like it is now, in that it's a little more heat resistant to people working on it. This stuff, although it's pretty nice, it's just not as tough. So we got to be careful of how we apply the heat. All right. So the first part is you just got to take the ferrule out, because the puller will rest itself against the top of the club head. And we don't want to really scrape the shaft in case the golfer wants it back. So we got that off and it's there. In fact, this is an original, a Titileist Select custom graphite shaft technology. This is an original setup, so we are taking apart an oldie but a goodie. All right, so I do like the Bernzomatic. I do like the fact that it has a precise heat application. And what we're going to do is we're not going to go any more than 30 seconds in any one area. So we got to keep the thing moving. Now, what's different about bore throughs than regular just, you know, heating up the hosel, that the hosel's the whole length of this club right here, and then we've got to get around the end of the shaft, of the tip where the bore through's at, in order for it to release. So let's get going. Now, when you're doing this with the heat, when you're looking at this, you see some discoloration. That's okay, because all that is the heat escaping, and you're going to take that off. One of the warnings I want to give you is that you're going to see right here where there are some pock marks from, you know, normal play and whatnot. You want to try to avoid those areas, because those will be even more sensitive to heat and will tend to want to curl. And that's true for any repair. Now, I give this a little bit more because this head is actually thicker and it takes a little bit more heat because there's just more surface area. Now, the second key to being able to take this guy out is a good puller. And you guys asked me about this thing. This is not made anymore, but a good shaft puller, regardless of who makes it, is just so important when you're doing golf club repair. All right, let's see if we can get this thing to go. Doesn't want to let go just yet, and that wasn't probably enough heat, I would say. All right, we're going to take it out and heat it some more then. These guys have always been a stubborn bunch. Now it's got hot enough that I need a glove. Aren't we being just a little pain? Oh, it is moving, so we are winning the war here. Okay. Moving a little gently today because my back is hurting. All right, let's get this thing moving. There we go. Now it came out. I'd like to show you without burning my hand. Almost out. Give it a little bit more. Need a little bit more room to pull. There we go. So, if you notice, this is the unfinished part of it, and that is a lot of shaft that is being held onto by this golf club, or by the golf club head. Now we got to clean it out. Now, the trick here is having a decent tool that'll go all the way in. That was a lot coming out. Now you won't be able to get all the way through, so you make an attempt this way. And you give it a look-see. Now what normally will happen here is that you'll find yourself a little bit in the middle where the brush may not have reached. So you got to give it a couple of shots. See that come out of there? All right, so we now know that this has a shoulder in it, so we need a shouldered ferrule. All right, looks like we got it clean enough. Now you can just see through there. See that? See me out there? Okay, so there we got that. So now what we need to do is clean the hosel area up just a little bit to remove some of the burning and that kind of stuff. I do that on a wavy wheel. Be right back. Alright, so now we got it looking like it did when we first got it. We haven't prepped any of the face or any of that stuff, only because that'll get done at the end. Although I might do the face. I did the face early because it didn't look like it was too bad off, and it wasn't. I mean, it looks pretty good now. So we got that taken care of. So now it's the assembly part. So a couple of things here. Normally, when you do a bore through, you need a tip pin. And a tip pin is relegated on its size because of the type of shaft that you're going to use. Now, on a graphite shaft, the tip pin would be very small, and it would look something like that. But because this is a steel shaft, I need a steel shaft tip pin. That could be problematic. Different kind of set. Oh, what we got here? There we go. Perfect. So, if you'll notice, steel shaft tip pin and graphite shaft tip pin. Much, much thicker, right? That's because the hole in the end is much, much bigger. And you see how that works in there like that? Thank you. So a couple things we got to do when we set up to glue this in, because time will be of the essence, because there's a lot of glue that happens, there's a lot of curing that's happening, and not a lot of time to do it in. So we rough this up so it'll take glue. We got that one. Then we got to see if this is going to fit in, and it will. Now the real trick here is everybody's going to want to go, oh, you just want to, we're going to want to cut it so that's even with this plane. Well, no. The easier way to do it is grind it off. And that's what we're going to do. So when you put it in there, you just have it so it sticks up just a little bit above the edge, and then you're good to go. However, based on the customer's desires, we are going to cut off 1 inch. So, probably a little bit less. Okay, as you've heard, I just cut it off. Now we got to take off, and we got to really get enough shaft prepared so that the big deal is so that this shaft really will glue well. We still got a ways to go. So it'll glue well to that. So I got to go a little bit further. All right, so we got that. Now, the real trick here is to find a ferrule. All right, now we need to find a ferrule. And the typical ferrule for that back in the day was a 3/4 inch, and it was a shouldered one, which of course I have right here, and that almost fits. I don't want to have to jam it in there. Let's see if I got another one. Kind of like that one. I'm going to see if I can find another one. The old Titileist one. The Titileist one would go. If we can make that happen, that's a much better fit. We'll try one of those as well. So when we get ready, we'll figure that part out. Okay, so now what we got is we've got the tip prepped, the tip pin prepped, we got the tip prepped, and we've got the inside of the hosel taken care of, and we got ourselves a ferrule. So now it's time to make some glue so we can glue it together. All right, in this case I'm using some DP 420, and looks like I'm going to need some more. And this is what would be called What's in My Drawers Golf Talk, which is the name of our live stream. What's in my drawers? Well, glue. Let's see, we want to get the oldest one in here, which I believe they're all the same. Get that guy going. All right. Now this one is a 2-to-1 ratio, and you need a 2-to-1 gun in order to make that work. In reality, it's just the plunger piece. There we go. Okay. A little bit of glue, a little bit of quick center, and a lot of bit of stirring. All right, so we got that taken care of, 60 seconds worth. Now in this particular, the first roll in the glue is just so that we can slide on a ferrule. I think I'm going to go with the smaller one since it fit in better, and we'll kind of give it more of a more modern look, I guess, as much as we can. And we're trying to get it to go all the way through. There we go. Now that's what we know we got to get glue on. So pro tip for doing these things is, number one, when you get some glue on this, you go through the bottom first, because most of that glue get used up. You want to make sure all that's taken care of right at the bottom, because it's a cosmetic and a stability thing. Alright, so we put a little more glue on. Spinning the shaft as we get in there to make sure that the shaft is 100% coated. Take a look and make sure. A little dab will do ya. We get it to seat in there. We got it up just enough. And then we'll use this to clean up all the excess that we just had. There we go. We know we got a good seal there. Now the last bit of this is the tip pin. We get enough glue in that, and we roll it around in the bottom. Now the real trick here is to make sure it really gets in there nice and tight. What I use is just the back end of this guy. There we go. We don't have to be too clean on the tip pin because we're going to take most of it out, but I do like to have the area where the shaft inserted through cleaned up a little bit. And then we make sure we've got it all taken care of. And this is where the tape issue came from, because we used to experience a lot of ferrule creep with these guys. And there we go. So now it just sits. And that was phase one of all of this, taking this off. So that's what we're going to do. We'll wait 24 hours for it to glue, or to cure. And then we'll do the finishing, which is pretty much the most important part. So stay tuned. All right, we're on day 2. Everything is dry, as we can tell by the glue patch. The first thing we got to do is eliminate the excess tip pin. Now there's plenty of ways of doing it. In the smaller tip pins, I would usually use this saw. It's a back saw, and just get as clean as I can, only because I can control the cut and I don't want to mar the surface here. Now on a bigger one, you could use a clipper, you know, anything that could snip, that kind of stuff. But in this case, I'm just going to show you how this works. You don't have to be too precise. The idea here is to just get rid of that part. Okay, put that back. Alright, so what I'm going to use is my jet tool with the grinding option on it. And because I have the steel shaft, I'm going to use a 80 grit sandpaper. Normally I would probably use either the red or the blue belt to take off the graphite and the small tip pin, just because of the material that we're using. So I'm going to get down as close as I possibly can, and what's going to do is going to heat up a lot of this metal. Now the whole idea here is I want to finish this up so it looks pretty decent when we're all said and done. So am I going to hit this area? Probably. And then I'm going to try and we'll shape it out. So let's see what we can do here. Okay, so what we've got here now is, if you can see, there's it's all gone and it's smooth. Now it looks a little rough, but you saw me turn it around because sometimes you just can't see the curvature of the sole, so you want to get it down. The whole idea is when you see me do this is I want to make it flush, because you don't want it grabbing onto the grass or any turf or anything like that. Now there is still a little bit of glue around the edge. That's what you saw me doing earlier, is I was flicking off excess glue. And that's so I can get a better feel of whether or not we're clean or not. Now what I have to do is there's a little bit more here. There we go. And when you do this, you're typically going to scratch the head, but you're going to re-scratch it anyway, so there we go. Just got to get the right perspective on it. See, when you get rid of that, you can feel that there's an edge there, which just has to go. But it's not so great that I can't get it with another belt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift to a red belt. And the red belt is basically, I call it an eater belt. What it does is it eats material. It's kind of in that same low grit category. When I mean low grit number category. And that'll help me finish off that metal and give this thing a neat new appearance. Now what we have here is what I call a finished product, because the red gave me the texture of the scoring on the bottom of the club that I was looking for. And as you can see, that's it. So now we have it clean, because there's all kinds of nastiness up in here and the scratching that I gave it, and the red belt just took it over. Now the last bit of it, from a technique point of view, you know, you're always grinding in just one spot. And what you really want to do is have this thing look uniform. So you want to start from the top and go to work to the bottom in order to give it that uniform appearance. Now the last thing I got to do is finish a ferrule. That's a pretty big ferrule. So there's going to be a lot of material to come off, because these ferrules, or these hosels, were notoriously thin. A few more. All right, so a little bit of finishing, we cut to length, and away we go. So a couple things to remember. Number one, when you're working on an older club, is if you see a lot of little pock marks and whatnot, that when you use to apply heat, that those things are weak points in the paint, and that they can expand or curl or do something along that line. So you want precise or precision controlled heating application. The other one is when you're using something that grabs the club this much, which is about 3.5 inches, is that you need a good puller. All right, I've used screw type pullers and it works, but it's an hour-long evolution, where what you saw was more closer to 10 minutes. Now, and it should have been less than that. The next part is that you got to have it fit up, and when it fits up, then you're in good shape. Use the right size tip pin. Allow the things to glue, because you're going to generate heat in trying to correct this stuff off, and then finish it to length, give it a little polish, and Bob's your uncle. And there you go. So if you like any more of this kind of information, you got any questions, put it in the show notes below. Don't forget to join us on our live stream on Mondays at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. It'll be on YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn, as a matter of fact. And if you'd like, send us some notes or talk to us there. And as always, let's see your scores go low.